Thank you so much, and thank you for the privilege of standing here. My brother had me nervous there for a moment when he was announcing the theme. He said, Job instead of John. I said, there goes my service. I was thinking on my feet there for a moment. No, thank you so much. I must say, this morning, the first service was the first time ever I had to stand up and preach in Afrikaans, because we're also an English church. And it is lekker. I can get used to that. Yeah. So I'll give you the same in English, but if I could, I'll do it in Afrikaans again. Eh? No. You're in a theme in a wonderful, wonderful book. I personally also enjoy going through that in my quiet time. In all these themes that you've been going through, I particularly enjoyed Peter, his walk. It's really, really helpful for me as well, personally. So thank you so much. And it's a privilege to be preaching into that theme this morning. And we're going to pick the story up from 2 weeks ago, where you heard Melissa speak about that miracle at the bath of Bethesda. And just remember, as Ross introduced it, every one of those moments is a sign pointing to something of Jesus. He writes later on in the book, he says, this I write to you so that you may know who Jesus is, that he is the Son of God. So every one of these signs points toward that. And Melissa pointed it out so beautifully. At the bath, Jesus comes into that moment, and without being invited, nobody putting up their hands, Jesus himself walks to a man and initiates a conversation with a desperate man. He takes the initiative, and he asks him, what do you want me to do for you? Isn't that beautiful? Nobody's shouting out at that moment. Nobody's crying out for help or pleading or praying. Jesus himself takes the initiative. Just that incredible compassion that he shows for every single one of us. And he's here with us this morning, doing the same thing, reaching out to every single one of us personally, whether I've put up my hand or not, because he is love. And that's in chapter 5. And now it's the end of chapter 5. It just flows over into the next chapter. It says, after these things, after that healing at the pool on the Sabbath day and the incredible tussle that followed that, as the spiritual leaders demanded from him, well, who gave you this authority? Tell us. Who told us you could heal on the Sabbath day? And it's a big wrestle over there. It's a tough moment. After that, Jesus comes to the lake, and John skips over a story to say that Jesus gets into the boat to get to the other side. He needs rest. He needs restoration. He is fully man as much as he is fully God. How many of us are in that space this morning? Who needs rest? Hey, good year, hey? Even a good year tires you. Come on. How much more a rough year if you had a couple of those tussles along the way? We need rest. Jesus needed rest, but there's something more than that. In his focus on pointing to who Jesus is, John skips over a story that Matthew touches on. After that miracle at the bath, Jesus got the news that his cousin, John the Baptist, was just beheaded by Herod. And it's under horrible, ungodly circumstances. No justice in it at all. And with that news, Jesus gets into the boat with his friends and says, let's just row over to the other side. He was just not physical, just tired. His soul needed rest. He needed to come to terms with the injustice that his own family, him personally, just suffered. And it's about an hour and a half to the other side of the lake, which must have been a bit of a breather at least, just away from the crowd that is constantly around him. But unbeknownst to him, along the side runs the crowd, knowing that he's heading to the other side. So they've got about 15 kilometers around the lake, racing around. And by the time he reaches the other side, there is a crowd of 5,000 men. As Ross estimated it last week, 12,000 to 20,000 people waiting there next to the water. Desperate people. He says, we need. Well, Jesus also needed rest very deeply. But in Matthew, it says it so beautifully. When he saw the crowd, he had compassion on them. His heart went out to them. Even in that moment of tiredness, Jesus was ready to give again. And not just for a moment, for the rest of that day. That's what it looked like. Teaching a crowd, healing, guiding, restoring, casting out demons, bringing deliverance to a desperate group of people. And then towards the end of that, last week, we heard about that miracle. Jesus turns to Philip and says, Philip, where are we going to get food for these people? And Philip, like every one of us, says, what? Even if there was enough food around here for them, how would we buy it? Months of salaries will not be able to pay for that. Just way too big, way too much. And then Andreas is, see, I'm in Afrikaans mode. Andrew, there we go. Andreas this morning, come on. Peter's brother comes to him and says, hey, here's a young chap. His mom put some food in for him. 5 little loaves, humble loaves, 2 little fish. But what is that among so many? And Jesus says, thank you very much. Give it. Tell the people to sit down, get them in order, get them in groups. And then looking up to heaven, Jesus thanked the Father for the food that they are about to eat. And Jesus multiplied it, not just in his hands, but giving it to the disciples. As they handed it out, it multiplied, 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 until everybody ate enough. An incredible, incredible miracle. Like last week we saw, it's the lavish provision of Jesus. His abundant provision. Because this morning we now sit with the lake, next to the lake with the disciples. And each one of them have next to them a full basket of food picked up afterwards. 12 baskets full. And after having blessed the crowd and sent them on his way, Jesus did go and get his rest, which is important for us also to see. He's not Superman, right? He is Jesus, God in flesh. Rest is still important. So he leaves the disciples there, having sent away the crowd, and he goes up into the hill to be with the Father by himself. And imagine them sitting over there next to the lake, each one hugging his basket. Think, man, we scored today, eh? This was good. So glad the people have a long way to walk because this basket is too heavy for them to carry, but we're going to chuck it in the boat now, man. We've got a feast. And did you see Jesus heal that one? Did you see that one standing up for the first time? They carried him here and he ran back home. Wow. Did you see Jesus touching that broken heart? So, I don't know what happened there, but wow, her eyes started shining after that prayer. Man, what a glorious, glorious day. But it's getting a bit late. It's starting to get dark. We still have an hour and a half over the lake to the other side. Where's Jesus? He's not coming back. And eventually they realized he's not going to come back before dark. So they got into the boat, loaded it up, and started rowing back to the other side. What a day. But it's not done yet. 7 kilometers into the lake, nearly to the other side, just another 3 to go. Everything's been going fine until that wind came up. Hurricane wind just started striking them, rocking them around on the water. Water starts coming across over the side. It's not that big a boat. And no matter how big it is out in a storm like that, it won't keep you safe. Desperate, fearful, suddenly one of them looks up, and one of the other Gospels gives it a bit more detail and says they saw somebody coming across the water and thought, it's a ghost, and they started to shout out. And so would every one of us, right? But the answer came back. Do not be afraid. I am with you. And John leaves the whole story of Peter out. If you've read John a few times, you would have seen there's something between John and Peter. Sort of a bit of a humor, I think. But the focus is not Peter here. Because John is telling us who Jesus is. See him in this moment. Showing up for his friends. Walking into your storm to come and meet you in the middle of a lake. Knowing exactly where to find you on the water. See Jesus coming this morning into your storm. And finally, Jesus is in the boat. And it says, the moment that he was in the boat, the storm quieted down. And immediately, they were at the other side. That one boggles me more than anything else. The other Gospels actually don't say it that way. Immediately, they were on the other side. Their own strength got them 7 kilometers across the way, and then they couldn't anymore. And when Jesus was in the boat, 3 kilometers covered. Done. Done. It's one of those stories that no matter how many times we hear it, it's just so relatable for every single one of us, isn't it? I'm not a fisherman, haven't been on a boat much, never been in a storm on the water, but I understand it completely, because a storm is a storm, whether it's water and wind, or whether it's relationship, finances, illness. There's just so many of them, and every one of them perfectly relatable for every one of us. But again, remember, what does this point to? Because it's a sign. And first of all, as Ross introduced, it points to the identity of Jesus. Jesus is the one in John chapter 1 through whom all things were created, in heaven and in earth. And it emphasizes it after saying it by saying, nothing exists that has not been created through him. And this miracle, more than any of the others before, demonstrates that so perfectly. That Jesus comes walking on water, defying gravity, defying the substance that he's on. He is over all. He is the Son of God. And even having heard he is the Son of God before, at this moment we realize, wait, there's like a next level to the Son of God. What? How does that happen? He is not bound by anything. The Son of God is sovereign over everything. That's the identity. But what about the character of this man who chooses to leave a safe moment up there on the mountain with his Father? A moment where he is being restored, where his heart is just making sense of the hurt that he's just suffered. A man who desperately needs rest, having ministered another day to another crowd of thousands. And yet he walks out into the storm that every one of us would have liked to flee from. He comes into it to meet us there. What courage! What incredible courage Jesus demonstrates. But more than that, he's not just the Son of God courageously coming to meet us. He's coming in with a mission. And he's coming in to make chaos fall back in order. To take this moment of absolute brokenness, fearfulness, and to turn it on its head and to bring peace, because he is the Prince of Peace. That's his mission into this world. To come and bring peace where the enemy wants to bring destruction and chaos and confusion and brokenness. Jesus heals and saves. And with that picture of the boat up there, I want to ask you this morning, just to make it personal. What is your boat that you're in at the moment? Because if you can see those disciples standing next to the lake over there, they've come across in their own strength on this thing that they trust. Very physical thing that they climbed in and said, we can trust our lives to this vessel. And our strength will bring us to the other side. Surely between the 12 of us or more, we can do it. We've done it before, we're going to do it again. There's no question about it, right? Because this thing offers security. And we'll climb in it and we'll trust ourselves to that. What's your boat this morning? As I'm speaking about a storm, what comes to mind? My family, we're actually quite in a good space at the moment. We've got peace. I come after a busy day, having maybe had some bumps and bruises along the way, and I walk into the house and I enjoy the security of my house. The relationships are beautiful. Everybody's healthy at the moment, doing well. It's a security. It's my little boat. But just like everybody else, tomorrow some scan can pick up a dot somewhere in one of us, and suddenly that boat just starts rocking. And the storm starts pounding down. And this thing that a moment ago feels so secure, so dependable, so reliable, suddenly becomes shaking, and it feels like it wants to go down and take me down with me. Or maybe it's your business, and it's really going well. And you can trust yourself. You can trust your future with it. You can actually figure out, I'm going to have enough. I'm storing away. I'm building up a security. And in a moment, it feels like this thing wants to sink. That president of America said something, and it just changed everything. I've been coming across this lake year in, year out, year in, year out, and this year, it just doesn't look the same anymore. The waves are just rising, and it's starting to sink us. You see, every security in our life, whether it's a relationship that's been so dependable over all these years, it's given strength and it's given hope. It's helped. And there's been some words or misunderstandings, and suddenly this boat feels like, man, I don't want to be in it anymore. I don't know if I can jump, but I think I'm going down anyway. Securities are like that. We trust ourselves into it. But somewhere along the line, every single one of us find ourselves in that storm. And this morning, as we look at that boat, each one our own boat. And maybe you're in the boat alone, or maybe you're in the boat with somebody else. Maybe there's some other boats around you and you can see everybody's going through the same storm. This morning, keep it in mind, because we're going to speak about a couple of aspects highlighted in the book over there of storms that every one of us face. But Jesus is walking on the water towards us. And the first aspect of that storm I want to highlight is the fact that storms are intimidating. My strength can bring me that far, but suddenly there's a power coming against me that's just way more than I can handle. I can't wrestle it down. I can't get my arms around this thing and bring it into submission. It's just too big for me, right? It's intimidating. And storms are loud. They shout at you. They make you know, I'm here, in your face. You feel me all around, right? There's another aspect also highlighted in the book that's really important. It says, storms are terrifying. It stirs up the terror that's already inside of me, a fear that's somewhere in me. I've got a fear maybe of death, but I've just never been faced with it. Just haven't seen it before, that close. And suddenly it's knocking on the door of the family or personally. And that fear that's always been inside of me, suddenly the storm comes and it stirs it up, it stirs it up, it stirs it up. And now the dirt that's been under the water all the time, it's foam sitting on the water. And maybe not just me seeing it, but everybody around me sees, hey, there's something. Which is not the worst of things. Because that fear has always been there. And it's going to stay there until I get deliverance. Until I come to Jesus and say, thank you. I'm staring it in the face now. Lord, help. Remove this lie sitting inside of me. I need deliverance. I need setting free. Maybe it's anger that wells up every time when there's a stormy situation at work or a conversation that I don't want to be in. That anger is going to come up every time for the rest of my life until I deal with it. And so storms are not the worst of things. They stir up stuff that I need to deal with. Stuff that's going to break relationship, or stuff that's going to insult my clients, or whatever else. It's going to break down until I see this scum on the water is my scum. Please, Jesus, help. Ask for help. The body of Christ is there for that. So not only is it intimidating and terrifying, storms are also isolating. And I want to spend most of our time here this morning. Just the fact that a storm closes me in. Physically, think about it. You're on the boat, and that wind is howling. And that waves are slapping all over the face, and I've got water coming from this side, and things bumping me from that side, and things rattling in the boat. It's noisy. Storms are like that. For the fact that I want to speak to you, and I want to say, throw out the anchor. And you look me in the face and say, what? How could he not hear me? He's right here with me in the boat. Throw out the anchor. Okay. Not the, what do you call it, spawn? Not the oar, or the other thing. Not the oar, the anchor. Come on. How can you not hear me? You're with me in the same boat. How can you not understand me? It's just noisy. Storms are like that. We can be in the same circumstance, facing exactly the same things, and yet the person on the other side of the boat experience it completely different. They just don't have the same fear welling up inside of them. They might have fear, but it might just not be the same fear that I'm feeling. They're just not experiencing the same thing that I'm experiencing in the same circumstances. Storms do that. And so I feel completely isolated because I feel I want to communicate. I want to let you know what I'm going through. Can't you feel it? Don't you understand it? And the more I talk, the less it seems like you do. COVID was such a good example of that. All been through the same circumstances. And one person in one family feels like this is the best holiday ever. I get around to all the crafts that I always wanted to do. I finally get into the garden. I finally get to do those things that I just haven't had time with. And you know, I really like the family. I really like all this quiet time together. It's lovely. And the neighbor feels like, how am I going to survive this? How am I going to handle this? This is the worst time ever. Well, the bug is doing the round, and one person feels like, man, you know, it's like a flu, some ivermectin, and we all got. Hey, we're good, we're fine. And the person right next to them, maybe in the same family, just cannot manage to take off the mask, even if they're alone in a car. Because the fear is just right here. Same thing, completely different experience. And you try and communicate about it, and you get so frustrated because you're just not hearing me. You're not understanding what I'm experiencing. And so I feel isolated. Jesus, please, nobody gets me. Nobody feels it like I do. So what do I do in those circumstances? Well, for one thing, look at the story. Jesus comes walking bravely across the water, finding you exactly where you are. He's not hunting around on the water. He doesn't have one of those beep, beep, beep thingies to try and track you down. He knows exactly where you are. And he walks right up to you with a statement. Fear not, I am with you. Are you isolated? In reality, no. Fear not, I'm with you. I see where you're at. I know what you're going through right now. There's an Old Testament story that's less known. It's an Egyptian slave girl called Hagar. Every Afrikaans person here would know who? Hagar die verskriklike. In our day and time, né? And Hagar was the slave of Sarah, Abraham's wife. And when it became absolutely clear to everybody that this child could physically never happen, this promised child of God is not going to come by any human means, Sarah came up with an idea and said to Abraham, well, why don't you take my slave as your wife? And let me see if I can maybe have children through her. Abraham took the bad advice, and Hagar fell pregnant. And the moment that Hagar fell pregnant, things between Sarah and Hagar completely changed. She felt that Hagar was looking at her with disrespect because Sarah could not fall pregnant. When I read that, I'm reading between the lines, but it feels like that's Sarah's stuff speaking. That's her own insecurity speaking. But anyway, she goes to Abraham and says, listen, I can't stand this woman anymore. All right? She disrespects me. And Abraham throws his hands up in the air and says, well, what do I have to do about it? She's your slave. Just completely disowns Hagar in that moment. Says, you sort her out. And Sarah does. She mistreats her to the point where Hagar runs away. She cannot bear it anymore. And so this pregnant woman finds herself completely alone in a desert, trying to make her way back to her family in Egypt. And she comes close to a pool there in the desert. And at this pool, nobody else, God personally walks into the desert and initiates a conversation with her. Says, Hagar, what are you doing here? Just such love. God personally coming to speak to an Egyptian slave that's been ill-treated by her owners. And in that moment, I want to read it for you word for word. She has an encounter with God that gives her a revelation of who He is. Interesting, a revelation that gives a name to God that we have not found in the scriptures before this. She's got a personal encounter with God, learns something about God that Abraham doesn't know, that Sarah doesn't know, that Noah didn't know, that Adam didn't know about God. This is a personal encounter that reveals something about God's character to her personally in that moment. How precious. Thereafter, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord who had spoken to her. She said, you are the God who sees me. I want to get tears in my eyes when I say it. See this woman sitting in the desert all by herself, completely mistreated. She didn't ask for this. It was done to her. And then she was thrown away, trying to run for her life back to her own family. He says, God, you see me. Have I truly seen the one who sees me? Just this revelation, you've seen me all the time. You've been seeing me even when I felt all by myself, all alone. You've seen me the whole time. I was never hidden from you. I was here in the middle of the lake on a boat in a storm. I felt completely isolated, but you've been looking at me the whole time. You've been here. Now I see the one who sees me. I pray that this morning, may that be every one of our experience. If we just get this revelation that Jesus, right this moment, sees me, knows where I'm at, knows what I'm struggling through, knows my fears, right here with me. And so much as we get a revelation of God in those moments of crisis, in those storms, there's a crucial mistake that we can make. We can think, well, just think about these glorious things that's revealed in a storm. Think about all this stuff that's in me that comes to the surface and now I can deal with it. And think about these encounters with God that I haven't had before and these things I learn about my Father that I haven't learned before. Surely it's God that brings the storms. so that I could see these things, experience these things, comes to know him. God must be the maker of the storm because he uses the storm so well to reveal things. Fatal mistake. He doesn't make the storm. He's the peacemaker. He's the one that right from creation takes chaos and brings it into order. Not just from creation, but right in the book of Revelation, it says he's going to make all things new. He's going to take every stormy situation, every broken thing, every illness, and he's going to settle it and make it right. To the point where Revelation, it says, no more tears. It's done. It's over. We shouldn't mix the two up. Who makes the storm? Who quiets the storm? Not the same one. It's not the same one. Years ago, I heard a testimony from a lady who went through something incredibly tragic. She lost a baby and walked in an intimate relationship with God. And so she knew that God is sovereign. God is almighty. God is powerful. God can do miraculous things. God heals. And with all of that in mind, like many of us, she tried to come to grips with how is it possible that the child is gone? How does that happen? And so in her heart of hearts, she just honestly shared how angry she was with God. She was furious at God. And so day in and day out, she went through this wrestle. Until one day, she found herself shouting out in a room, screaming at God to say, God, I'm angry with you. And in that moment, she saw a vision of herself standing in a dark cave, completely closed in. No light. And she's just screaming at the top of her lungs, shouting at God. And in a moment, right next to her, she hears a voice shouting as loud as she's shouting. I'm also angry. And she turns and looks, and right next to her, there stands Jesus. And Jesus has tears falling down his face, agony in his eyes. He says, I'm also angry that you had to go through this. I'm just as broken as you are that you had to face this, that you had to be hurt in this terrible way, that you, my child, had to suffer this. And it shocked her. I said, I thought I'm angry at you, but you're angry with me. What? And then as she looked, she saw light radiating from Jesus' body. And this incredibly dark cave started filling up with light. And a moment later, the light started glimmering of gems that filled all the edges of this dark cave. And one by one, she started discovering treasures, gems all around her in the middle of this dark space with Jesus. It's such an incredible, powerful picture, such a truth that the scripture emphasizes again and again for us. See the picture of yourself standing in that cave. I'm not fighting him. If I am, I'm fighting the one that wants to give me peace, the one that wants to bring restoration and healing. He's with me in the middle of this, fighting for me, wrestling with me through this. He walked on the water to my boat and climbed in. Not standing on the outside saying, take a left, take a right, row a bit more here, throw in the anchor. No, he's climbing in, joining me if I would allow him. And in that space with Jesus, I can discover, like Hagar, things in my relationship with God that I just never knew before. I can look forward to meeting him in a new way. It's always so glorious for me if you think about creation right at the beginning. Adam, Eve walks with God in the garden, and there's no sin, there's no brokenness, there's no illness, there's no death. Nothing is wrong. If we would worship God in that space, what would we say? Say, you're the creator. You're the almighty one. Look how creative you are. You could give life and and sustain life. All of those things we would know about God. But I would never be able to call him Savior because he's never saved me. I would never be able to say, God, you're my helper. Well, I didn't really need help in the garden. God, you're my rescuer. Well, I never needed rescue. From what? From the lion? He hasn't started chewing people yet. God, you're my truth. You deliver me from lies. Well, the snake haven't beguiled us yet. He's not the one that brings it in. But in the midst of all brokenness, in every single storm that we face in the life, he's the one that reveals himself more and more and more to us and say, you didn't know I could walk on water? Well, I can. You didn't know I could quiet a storm? Well, I can. You didn't know I could bring you to the other side? Well, I can. Trust me. Trust me. Let me reveal myself to you more and more and more. This is who I am. Job discovered that so powerfully. So we do get around to Job in this message. Thank you, Ross. Job had this incredible encounter with God. And for 37 chapters, there's this debate back and forth about, it's your fault, Job. You messed up. It's you. It's not me. It's just a fight. Bicker of words back and forth until finally, in chapter 38, Job hears God. That's the turning point. Just like these guys on the boat, fear not, I'm with you. Hearing God changes the moment. That's what we're pressing in for. That's what we're hoping for, what we're trusting for in the midst of anything that we face. And that moment, I just picture Job having sat around a table maybe, or somewhere on the ground, or somewhere, I don't know, just in a circle, chatting. And suddenly Job starts looking up after the young man had his say, and he sees a storm. And then he hears God speaking to him through the storm. And then he sees a horse somewhere running past. He says, wow, God, you made that valiant creature. And then he sees an ostrich. Wow, God, you made that dumb creature. He's actually saying something like that. And he says, but it's super fast. But you care for it. Even though it's got half a brain, God, you care for it. And he sees the mountain goats, and he sees the weather, sees the lightning, and suddenly his eyes just open up more and more and more, and he's got these revelations. God, I've been wrestling with you, but wow, you're the maker and sustainer of all things. I can trust you. And he comes to the end of it with a statement, this famous statement that says, God, I've heard about you, but now I've seen. It's so beautiful at the end of it. Job seemed to pray for his friends. If you want a picture, he took some gems off the side of that cave that he was in, and he says, friends, come. I know something about God you haven't learned yet. You haven't been through it. I have. You can trust him. Same is true for Elijah, right? Remember Elijah? Incredible victory on the mountain, fire from heaven coming down, consuming everything, including the rocks. And then suddenly Jezebel gives him a threat. Says, I'm coming for you, buddy. I'm going to kill you, just like you killed my prophets. And fear that's been in there comes to the top and overtakes this incredible man of God. So much so that he runs all through Judah, all through the desert at the bottom, into Sinai. Comes to that mountain of God. And the storm rages and rages and rages until when? Until he hears God's voice in a small, still whisper. And God says to him, buddy, you think it's over? I'm going to do something in Judah you haven't dreamed of. You think it's over? I'm going to do something in Israel you could never imagine. You think it's over? I'm going to do something in Assyria, your enemies up there, that you cannot imagine. I've only just begun. And having heard God, he comes back to the same threat, same storm, but the fear gone. Delivered. Jezebel still wants to kill him. Ahab still has it in for him. But the fear is gone. You can walk back into that storm with a peace that God has spoken to me. I've heard God. Bring it on. He's got the hope. Some years ago, At the end of every year, we've got a staff meeting, just like many of you would. And at this particular staff meeting, I plicked myself a bit, got angry, had some hard words with somebody, felt absolutely justified for it, thought I was right. Hey? Like Joyce Meyer says, being right is overrated. I had to learn that one. And then the next day, climbed in the car, I had everything packed, and we went camping. And it was one of those really, really busy years. I was really tired, and I was so looking forward for months already to this camp. It's just us and another family on a stretch of grass there in Rawsonville next to a river. I was just seeing myself there for so long, and I needed it. And now I'm there, and I've got this going on inside of me. And I'm just reliving this conversation, and every time I'm reliving it, I know exactly what I need to say to her to set her in a place and get her right when I'm coming back. And yeah, I'm going to tell her. No peace. 2 days into the holiday, I'm feeling, God, I've been so looking forward to this. I need this rest, but I can't rest. Come on. And in a moment, I heard God so clearly. It was one of those moments that was almost audible. God just say, Garth, you're wrong. Go and apologize. And that was the conversation. But I cannot tell you, I'm sharing it now because for me, I had this storm just raging in me, all right? Really angry, and just this argument again and again and again and going over in my head until the moment that I truly heard God saying to me, Garth, you're wrong. Go apologize. And I stood there. I still remember the spot on the lawn. I know exactly. I stood there thinking, what? Yeah. You're right. I'm wrong. Okay, I need to apologize. I got the phone, gave her a call, said, I'm so sorry. I was really rude. Settled it there. Said, after the holiday, let's chat it over. But just know that I'm sorry. And I had a great week and a half. Peace restored. Now, many storms that we face are not that simple, right? Having lost somebody, having lost something, having had to close the doors at that place, or having that illness that is just not miraculously gone in a moment. It just doesn't settle that easily. But when Jesus is in the boat, that changes everything. Just the fact that he's with me in this moment. That now I'm in this storm, but I'm not isolated. I'm not closed off from you. You're in it. I've got hope. You can bring me to the other side. I want to share a song with you that just as I prepared kept ringing in my head. And it's by Brian and Katie Torwalt. Don't know if you guys ever listen to them. If you don't, you should. Come on, get with it. But it just says it so beautifully, these phrases. Just the chorus, the bridge part. So for a moment, just close your eyes. Listen to the words speaking into your soul and your spirit. And even before I start singing, would you just see yourself on that boat of yours? See yourself just on that boat in the storm at this moment. And hear crying out, be with me. I just want you to be with me. I don't need you to do a thing. Your love is enough. Jesus, be with me. I just want you to be with me. I don't need you to do a thing. Your love is enough. In your presence, I know where I stand. I know who I am in your love. In your presence, what more could I need? I know I'm a child of God. In your presence, I know where I stand. I know who I am in your love. In your presence, what more could I need? I know I'm a child of God. Jesus, be with me. I just want you to be with me. I don't need you to do a thing, for your love is enough. And just sitting in that space, inviting Jesus into the boat. Would you do that this moment? Just personally ask him, Jesus, please come in. You are my security and you are my strength. I don't want to row by myself. I don't want to sit by myself, trusting in other things. You are my security and you are my strength. And Jesus, in this moment, I just want to invite in your peace into our hearts. Thank you for your promise that you said you will never leave us nor forsake us. You are with us to the very end of the age. So Jesus, in every one of these hearts, we welcome in your peace, your security, your order. I pray for chaotic thoughts to quiet now under your name, Jesus. In your authority, bring order in, bring stability in, bring truth in. And Jesus, we invite you to deliver us. Take out of us the fear, the anxiety that the storms of this life stir up, and restore in us the truth of your peace, Jesus Christ.